Welcome to a new season of the Film Rescue Show. I'm your Pitchmaster General Seth, and today we're here to talk about Chris Evans injecting himself with superhuman serum. And it's not Captain America. We're talking Push, directed by Paul McGuigan. Today, let me tell you about our guest. We have our professional cynic, Jesse, here with us today. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm good. I'm back to drinking now.
How very Trailer Park Boys of you to show up with the clinking Coke in the glass. I love it. It's perfect. And we also have returning guest, friend of the show, and just all around great guy, Case Aiken from Another Pass and Men of Steel podcast. Case, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I did not realize this was the launch of a season. I would
Yeah,
be.
you launched our last season too, Within the Darkness.
I feel underprepared then.
Yeah.
That scenario
And
for this one.
let me add to this too. This is also Film Rescue's last scheduled season. So we're not deleting the show, but we're not going to be doing regular seasons anymore. So this is the last full season. And who better to have on here to open us up than a friend of the show? No airs.
That's true.
No airs.
Yeah.
We're here to have fun.
No, it's true. It's true. Like one of the shows I host, Another Pass, is very similar to Film Rescue. I describe Film Rescue as being like Another Pass, but with a 2-drink minimum, and Another Pass is like Film Rescue, but on hard mode, because we require everyone to be speculating based on like the actual circumstances of the time, and put like additional constraints on like what you're allowed to speculate about.
I've started telling people, you have the producer's show, we have the writer's show. Ours is like just all about getting into the writing room, and you break it down into like, how could we do this in that time? And I want to say, we do have those constraints on the show for this episode today because you're here. And I think that's fun and fair.
Oh God.
Well, that's going to be my attempt anyways. I'll put it that way.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Came out, but I'm remembering that it wasn't anything special. I remember being up for it because this is 2009 when it came out. Like,
we were hungry for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We were itching.
MCU had just started at this point,
right? Yeah, like all of a sudden the promise of like a good superhero thing, and frankly, this feels a lot like things like Heroes. Or things like it really feels like Wildcats to me, for reasons that are hard for me to fully explain, but just like kind of have a similar vibe.
Okay.
Or specifically,
I described it as X-Men without really being the X-Men.
Yeah, or specifically,
or what's the off-brand X-Men characters? What is it? X Factor? The characters no one gives a shit about.
I was gonna say, it's like Gen 13, where it's like government.
Yeah, Gen 13.
With like drugs to make that, like, to activate latent potential for all these people to have superpowers. Like that kind of is a one that it really feels like. It even has the same like enforcer type that Victor in this movie is. I forget the character's name. Threshold, I think, was the character who was like basically the exact same part. A psychic manipulative like lady character in the sort of like also in the baddies. Admittedly, in this one it's a fake out, but like those are similar parts. And just generally like, oh yeah, and here's our collection of misfits with weird powers. Each one has one specific power that they are of different levels of competence at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There was also a comic series I remember reading years ago. It's a long running series. I only read the Nick Spencer run. It was like, what was it called? Thunder
Agents, Thunder Force.
Thunder Agents. There it is. Thunder Agents. That's right.
The one that had like the guy in the blue bodysuit with like the big lightning bolt kind of design to it. And
that's the one. Yeah. Like the off-brand kind of like, sort of a little bit like a traditional superhero team, but not really.
Right? It was like kind of being like it's sort of a slightly more realistic set of superpowered kind of world characters.
Yeah, working for the government, doing shady operations, things like that.
Wild. Yeah, this is such a brand. This is so it's so easy to reproduce. Like the idea of the government going after super people, setting it during 1945 is very X-Men of them. With that kind of World War II placement.
That's also inherently the problem, which is that could you invent your own stuff for your own story, please?
Well, like, and they are.
There's so much rip from other shit, dude.
I see your note here, and I like that note. I think the way they decided to respond to that note by making it, how did Case put it off air? YA as fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
That was they had this platter of like, do an X-Men, but you need to do it different, and so they responded to that by going, oh, let's make it YA, and like everyone's a watcher or a seeker or a shrieker or a ER or like
Yeah. I think you mentioned this years ago, Seth. It's very Harry Potter-esque. It's
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
like the bleeders, the screamers, the whatever. It's like Harry Potter type names and allegories and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, or like the Hunger Games style, like it's the District
Yeah.
13 type people, or the District 12s,
Yeah.
or the
right.
or like the color scheme, like looking at the poster and then like the effects that they do on it feel a lot like Divergent or like some of those movies.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it it's that orange and teal time period of film,
Yeah.
of like color grading.
The only movie that's allowed to get away with orange and teal is Mad Max Fury Road. That's the only one.
I mean, that said, I think the movie is aesthetically pleasing, and like I think it looks good, and that is one of the reasons why I enjoyed it at the time.
It has a very clear visual style. That
Yeah.
on my initial watch, I remember being a little like blown away by it, and then watching it now with like almost 2 decades on it, it's like, oh wow, they really had something here.
Setting it in Hong Kong makes it feel fresh.
Yeah. It's stylish in the way that like see if you follow this logic here. So you know how like Blade came out the year before both Matrix and Dark City came out?
Yeah.
Like there's these like stylistic elements, and a lot of it's taken from like Hong Kong action movies of Blade that are shared with the Matrix, like the dodging bullets and stuff like that. And then the aesthetic of like, here we've got the leather jackets and like all this, like it was a very 90s kind of like, here are the tropes that were going to be like the hotness of like 1998. I feel like this is one decade later, exactly that's it, like for this particular decade, where it's as tropey as you can get. But that said, it's actually like kind of fine tropey. The problem is it's ambitious. Like it's I had to check if this was adapted from like a series. Like I was like at a point I was like, wait, is this a YA series? Like, because this
it almost feels like it.
Yeah,
it super could be, and I think could thrive in that environment.
Totally.
But
oh my god.
But I think it was not. I think it was unknowingly that way, because like I think that this feels like it was more male targeted than what traditionally you would expect for like a YA series, even though this is really similar to
absolutely.
like, a billion series like that. So I think there was an element of it, like, we're too cool for this. Like, it has a comic book tie-in. They tried to have a TV show. Like, they clearly wanted to build out this huge world, and so they're laying so much out there rather than having any kind of simplicity to it. Like, they're just like, nope, let's just fucking throw everything we can of every kind of occult or psychic thing and make each one updated so that they're cool and they're an assassin, or they're like they're the sniffers are like the what is it, psychometry, like where it's like, oh, now they're creepy and they like smell you and they're weird, and it's played by fucking Yellow Jacket Man.
There's a lot of MCU people that show up in this movie. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
The cast is amazing. Also,
the cast is great. Yeah, that's a big positive for me. Yeah,
0 complaints for the cast.
Yeah, I will say it's funny that you mentioned that it's trying to be like a big expansive thing like YA, and it's like there was supposed to be a TV show. It was supposed to continue after this. One of the writers that was supposed to be on that show was David Hayter, who the voice of Solid Snake, who is a writer in Hollywood. He actually wrote or co-wrote the first 2 X-Men movies. So basically they said, hey, you want to do the X-Men without really doing the X-Men? Here you go. And they didn't pick it up. Apparently there's like an unproduced pilot. It just is a script that's just laying in a drawer somewhere. So I don't think it ever got off the ground. It just, they tried, it didn't go anywhere. It's just, there was no incentive to do it.
It's expensive. Like, it looks expensive. I mean, like, budget wise, I'm sure this isn't. This was what
the way they should have done it is like
million, so it's actually like very visually appealing for it, and it's technically it's technically successful. It made 48 million. I understand that you need to make double to like really actually recoup, but like.
But they saw Iron Man numbers prior to this. They're like, well, we didn't make that.
Right.
That's the issue. What they should have done is like, you ever read J. Michael Straczynski's Rising Stars? You ever read that?
Yeah.
They should have done it like that, where there's big superpowered characters that are, oh my God, you can do amazing things. And there's like one woman that has the telekinetic ability to lift like a leaf. And there's no other, and like everyone's like, well, what can you do with that? But then you think, oh, what can you do with that? Well, what if you pinched off someone's carotid artery in their heart? You could give somebody a heart attack and they would never know it. So the CIA hires that woman as an assassin.
Wow.
Brilliant idea. It's like your power may seem insignificant, but you can use it for really interesting things.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
and
what
one
they
of the
should
things-
have done to get the budget down, so you don't have to do that visual effect shit all over the place.
And one of the things they fleece through comics like that are, if people don't have over the top powers, they always work for the government and have excellent training. They are like, their
Yeah.
bodies are weapons of their own. Every normal human character also knows like every kind of karate, and also, like they have to stack the
Yeah.
skills on top.
Yeah.
I like that Push presents this as like kind of low stakes overall. Like the powers are a little cheap, but like as part of the world of like, yeah, no, this isn't, Superman's not going to show up. The most powerful you get is maybe juggling a couple guns in the air. And I like bringing the stakes down for this kind of, especially for this kind of budget too. Like it's.
Well, I mean, they did
functional for
destroy a
this.
building at the very end. They did do that.
Right. But even then, like that came from a surprise character that we did not know had that ability and had that ability practiced to that level either, and an ability that it makes sense for too. That kind of vibration could represent an earthquake and bring a building down that's not fully constructed. But
That's
like
fair.
that's as big as it goes. Like nobody's even Chronicle, I think, similar budget, if not even less, goes way bigger with their powers than this does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is definitely a movie to compare like the thrill of telekinesis. Like that is like a big part of definitely the marketing. Like while Push is actually a reference to the like the telepaths, like the memory manipulators. All the marketing is made to look like we're talking about the people who are telekinetic in this world. Like the posters are like, look at me, like throw a car with my telekinetic powers.
He never does that at any point in the movie.
No, but regardless, like it's like he's pushing it, like
I get it.
Fucking silly part there.
What is the name of the what's the name of the telekinetic people? What is the name of it?
Movers.
What are they called? Movers. Okay, yeah, because Mover is not as interesting title as Push.
Right.
Okay. So
and like for story reasons, obviously it makes sense to call this Push, relatively speaking, because like that's the actual like big question of the movie. The YA question of like, are we actually enemies to lovers, or is it all a lie?
Well, and on top of that, they also make like the push of the plot. It comes from a push, like the domino chain. Like it is well integrated. I understand the choice here. But they wouldn't have been pushed into this title if they hadn't made that a pusher and a mover and a shrieker. And it's like, why is this such simplistic language?
Well, because the point of this movie is that telekinesis is cool. Like it's the action scenes that they actually like really deliver on are those telekinetic effects. Like it actually looks fucking dope. Like and it is getting into the realm of like you reference Chronicle, and Chronicle, it does it beautifully, and it's sucks to say that because everyone involved in making that movie are terrible.
Oh my god, it's like not even worth mentioning anymore, but it's still in the conversation.
Right, but I still love it. And it's so frustrating because it was actually really, really well done.
Me and Baby Driver, I have hands for that movie, and I love it so much.
God damn it.
But anyway,
remember how a few seasons ago we said we should deepfake Tig Notaro into like multiple movies that we absolutely hate?
Yes, Tig Notaro's Chronicle.
Just put Tig Notaro in literally every other role where it's like it's a shitty person. Just like, and Ansel Elgort on Kevin Spacey. Just put her face on him. It's fine.
I don't think there's anything problematic with any of the cast for Chronicle.
No, everyone's fine.
Yeah,
these are all good.
So that's
actors.
The problem. You can't just like swap out the actor. It's the like, the writer and the director.
No, we're talking. Well, I mean,
in Chronicle's case, anyways.
In Chronicle's case, But here's my biggest issue with this film: is the fact that these people have superhuman abilities a secret, or is this public knowledge? It's never firmly established because the world building isn't great. So there's parts where they're trying to see like, oh, it's a secret. We try to hide ourselves from the government and, not make ourselves known to the public. But then you go to when Ming-Na Wen shows up, which instant bump up a letter grade because Ming-Na Wen's in the movie. Right. When that guy goes to see her about his wife that's been cheating on him with some rich guy, like that means that he knows who this is. Does this mean that that's public knowledge that she has that ability? It's like,
Well,
I'm very confused.
I think Looper did a better job of describing what a world like this looks like when it talks about how there would have been a big hump of like excitement from the world, and then eventually when nothing really interesting happens from it,
Just
it just
settle into it.
becomes part of everyday life and you settle in. And I think this world is of that nature where it's like if you hide your powers, you can use them to your advantage, like we see Chris Evans doing at the beginning. And then we see the government has intentions of like turning this into a war thing. But in general, people just want to blend in and not be seen. And that's believable to me.
It would be great if that was firmly established in the
Yeah,
movie.
no, and again, I think Looper putting that in a if they're going to open this movie with a narration blurb anyways, like explaining that a little bit would be worthwhile.
That was a lot to dump on you at the at the
Yeah.
intro. While I like the visual intro, it's a lot to dump on the audience.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that was a later decision to put that in there.
Oh,
Like,
it had to be.
It feels so much like the Dark City, like Kiefer Sutherland, like monologue. Like,
Yeah, wasn't that like added at the last second because the studio is like, we don't get it?
right, exactly. Where it's like,
Yeah.
we don't think the audience is going to be able to understand from context clues any of this. Like, everything from that fucking monologue could have been like integrated later into the movie, or has to
Right.
be re-explained anyway. Like, I'm honestly not certain that it was required. Like that,
It wasn't.
one of the few like big notes that I have that are like an obvious change is that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, and that's like a lesson that I think studios have learned over the last couple decades is you can trust your audience a little bit. Like you don't have to really dumb things down in this way. I think my issue, along what Jesse's saying here, is this feels like X-Men via Aeropostale. This is like
Wow, that is like the deepest cut I think I've ever heard on
he
this
shows
show.
up to he shows up to the finale in a hoodie and a white t-shirt and jeans, like an
Ah,
Aeropostale
damn,
model.
you're right. Mm.
And then fucking Dakota Fanning, every outfit she has is hanging on the wall. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think they could have, if they wanted to teeny bop it, they should have done that more. This is a very adult story about like gamblers and like the underbelly of China and in Hong Kong, and like this is a very grown
Doesn't
up
this feel
story.
like but actually, I argue, doesn't this feel very like early pubescent boy, like spy story kind of thing? Like,
Oh no,
doesn't
this
that
is
feel like
a 14-year-old would
Yeah.
wants to act this out, but is too ashamed of playing make believe anymore. So he needs to see it as a movie. 100%.
right?
Yeah,
It's that
Yeah.
level of Pulp Fiction.
yeah,
it,
yeah, exactly.
it feels a bit like the original X-Men, the X-Men animated TV show a bit, where it's like the plots are so simple that they just have to boil it down to, hey, who's the next big cameo thing we're having showing up? Oh, there's Archangel. Oh, look, there's Apocalypse. Like it's that. It's that. It's so simple and so basic. Not that I don't like the original X-Men show, and thank God we're getting the X-Men 97 show, but god damn it, you took away Rogue's ass. You assholes. You sons of bitches. You've murdered my girl.
They were bold in the 90s. They were bold.
God damn it. My girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is at odds with itself because sometimes it is so
Yeah.
good. It like that.
It's so close to being good. It's so close.
The
These are my
telekinetic
favorite
shootout.
These are my favorite kind of film rescues. There's like one push, quote unquote, forgive the pun, in the right direction is
Right.
gonna just get it over the hump, but it can't quite get there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll give you a telekinetic gunfight that is like excellent. We've
Oh,
not
it's great.
seen
It's well shot.
not
It looks
seen
great. No shaky
any shit
cams.
like
Awesome.
that. We've not seen any shit like this in the MCU. They don't do powers versus powers very often. in
Why
a
the
way
hell
that,
hasn't
like,
a Jedi done that shit?
Oh my god! Right?
Right?
Bro! Like seriously, why the hell wasn't Luke grabbing like 10 blasters and shooting people when he's on the Death Star?
They have to have that whole inelegant weapon kind of situation there. No, but this
Right.
is why I would argue that the Shadow is a fucking Jedi right there. Like, because like this is that same kind of promise of like we're going to use psychic powers and gunplay.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow. You have to really stretch before you reach that far, man.
Wait,
Goddamn,
the Shadow is a Jedi? Like,
it's-
no, like actually
I'd say he's more of a Sith Lord than anything else, man.
well, okay. I mean, it's certainly let's say he's a Force user.
Okay.
What's that term that Seth hates? Gray Jedi? That
Oh,
bullshit.
God. It's like that Nick Offerman quote: "Just be a Jedi or be nothing." Skim milk is just water masquerading as milk. Be whole milk or be nothing. Yeah, that
Anyway,
gray Jedis are the skim milk of the Star Wars universe. Speaking of skim milk, let's talk about Push and how they almost achieved some really
right.
okay.
Good
There's
transition
a
back
there's
because
a oh yeah, go.
yeah,
No,
well,
no,
no,
no.
just like what we're saying, like there are so many scenes that are so close to great. Like the actual fight scenes in this movie are really cool. There's some very cool uses of powers in this movie in general.
I'd
I'd
argue
rather
that the powers are really the center of the movie. There's almost a use of a power in every scene, and some scenes are built around them. That was
Yeah.
kind of surprising to me on rewatch. I forgot about that.
I
yeah,
love it when I love when Jaimin Hasu makes Yellow Jacket put a gun in his mouth. That is just like so clever.
So
It's like just
cold.
to get rid of
Oh,
this guy that will not go home. It's just great.
he
Yep,
gave
this
him a
agent's
chance. He
useless.
gave him a chance to leave.
Gave him a chance to walk away, and he didn't walk away. It's like, all right, well, fine.
Yeah, yeah. What's your standout experience, Case? Like of all the powers on display here, what scene do you think was the best?
I mean, oh, Christ, like I feel like I'm so goddamn basic, but like the telekinetic ones are the ones that stand out the most to me, just because like that is exactly my shit as a Superman fan who
Yeah.
like was so into '90s Superboy, whose only power was telekinesis, and
Wasn't
specifically
it
like
like he would make himself fly by telekinetically lifting himself? Wasn't that what it
exactly, and
was?
like he
Yeah,
was bulletproof because a bullet that shot him, he would telekinetically stop, just like what
yeah,
you in this movie.
Yeah.
And so like I was so into that. In terms of like other powers that like were really cool, you know what? The sniffers are actually a really cool example in this movie of like something I wouldn't have thought about, but would be so useful actually as a real world superpower. Like
yeah.
like being able
Yeah.
to just like pick up any details off of anything you sort of like encounter, and sort of like have this sort of like ritual of like taking in the history of like
Superhuman detectives.
yeah, like that's an occult thing that is really cool, but it also is like not that flashy, but I love it because applied to like a modern like espionage thing, it's really really fucking useful.
Dude,
Yeah,
this is where the visual language really works for me because he took the cup and he spins it like he's spinning a clock backwards to rewind through all the moments that Chris Evans has had with that cup in the apartment to then like see that he's been there alone while he's been drinking. Like what a really cool way to show off this power being used without somebody standing there and like explaining to us,
Yeah.
just bashing us over the head. It's like, no. He's a fucking DJ. He's rewinding on the device, on the item, and then we're seeing things flash backwards. Perfect visual storytelling right there. It really impressed me.
I got some vibes of Minority Report in there as well. Where,
Totally.
Mhm.
Lots of that. Yeah.
yeah, got vibes of that.
Yeah,
Here-
and certainly that would have been like that would have been the prestige movie that this would be aping aspects of for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
There was one issue that I really had, and it's just kind of bugged me. So, if a pusher puts thoughts in your heart, in your head by looking into your eyes, wear sunglasses. Maybe it
I
won't work.
couldn't tell if it actually required line of sight.
But yeah, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's the weird thing. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Like I don't.
I think that it depended on who was doing the pushing too, because it was implied that Kira was like exceptionally good at it because of the injection that she had.
But Jamin Hansu is way better at it.
But he's
That's the weird thing.
long time
Yeah,
trained
he's
on it.
skilled.
Yeah.
And she only gets him while he's asleep too, which I like. Again, I think
But that
power
also
scaling
brings up-
seems to be not part of the conversation here.
Yeah, that also brings up the problem is that if Jamin Hansu is clearly more powerful than Kira without the serum, and yet she's still weaker than him with the serum, what's the point?
Well, because that's evening up the teams. Like they had to like draw their sides, and you have to do this with any like comic book story too. If you have teams of people against, you have to like either even it up with an army to overwhelm everyone, or the best versions you pit opposite powers against opposite powers, and then show that it's a chess set. You know what I mean? You want
Yeah.
your king and queen to have their like kind of parallel opposites, and that's why the twist in this is so good because without it. Chris Evans' character has no reason to be in the movie.
That's fair. I will say that kind of bugs me is that the two of them were a couple, which is just introduced, like dropped in the middle of the movie. It's like, oh, they were a couple at one point. It's like, where did this come from?
Yeah,
Oh,
all of a
okay.
sudden it sounds like Chris Evans' character was like, he was like, "Oh, you were captured. I tried to break you out." And I'm like, "Wait a second, you were just gambling like a day before." And
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
"You
like
look
this does
desperately
not
trying."
fit.
This
This
is
feels,
not a freedom fighter kind of bullshit. So it makes you
yeah,
actually kind of believe. Like that is actually a cool part about like the fake out twist, like where you could actually believe that these are all memories that they just put in Chris Evans' head because he hasn't opened up that much. It would feel better about it if it didn't have that like prologue going into it that kind of sets this up to being like, well, here's going to be our hero guy. Like I would
yeah.
way rather have seen like Chris Evans like
failing an
his young.
attempt.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I would rather have seen his like young backstory with his dad, like as a flashback later in the movie, and not known as much about him, so that all the memories could feel like they are lies, as opposed to setting it up as being this is the first thing we've seen, so we kind of have to believe that at least this part of his life is true, and thus he feels like a protagonist. Like,
Yeah. It's like a replicant finding out that their whole life is a lie. Like when Rachel realizes, oh, all my memories are fake, so
right,
my
Yeah,
life is unimportant. Okay.
my only addition to that would have been that he would have wiped his memories after she got taken. Like if they could have established that he's kind of a little more Jason Bourne-y, I guess. Like there's a reason that he's tried to get these memories out, and it's because he felt like he failed her. If that was like a reveal later on, I think it could have worked much more into their favor because she does just kind of come in out of nowhere as being like connected to him. And I know that's in service of our twist, but we need it needs to feel believable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like like you said, Evans doesn't really have a point in the film except for when you get to that halfway point. That's the biggest issue, is that his memories being real or fake, or Kira's like memories being real or fake, like it all gets kind of undercut when you have that intro of
Yeah.
the dialogue saying, "Oh, this is the good guys, these are the bad guys." So you know that everything that Jamin Hansu is saying is all lies.
Yeah.
Just you don't buy it at all. It would have been better if they didn't have that intro and then just said, "Oh, well, maybe Kira is actually an agent. Maybe it is a Total Recall situation where it's like you were secretly an agent the whole time." Like that would be more interesting, honestly, as a
yeah,
story. I mean, yes, it's a ripoff of Total Recall, but if you're gonna rip off a movie, rip off a really, really good one.
Well, and Total Recall has like powers and psychics and stuff in it too. Like these feel
Yeah, like that.
like
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
like this feels like this could be the prequel world to Total Recall.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, it was radiation induced in that too. So
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah. Also, isn't it bad taste to say that all these people are kind of were created via like Nazi experiments? Is that in bad taste?
I mean that's
That might be
I
tough.
think
It's like kind of
I think it's
tapping the
just
line. Like you stick it.
cliche. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah, it's
I
cliche.
don't think it can be bad taste because it's so done at this point. Like I
If
didn't bat an
Wolfenstein
eye.
can get away with it, it's fine.
Yeah, like it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, like it's such a trope that
Yeah.
I'm not offended by its use because it's just like I'm more offended by its overuse.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hip to the idea that this just developed. You know what I mean? Just this is the like the X-Men, just kind of the next step, and just not many people have it yet. Not many. Maybe it's a cell phone thing. Maybe it's long-term exposure to cell phones starts to activate the gene in this world.
I mean, that's what they kind of do the inverse in Logan, where they say they got rid of all the mutants by putting shit into the water supply.
Yeah,
Oh, the corn syrup.
The corn syrup. That's right. Yeah, putting
yeah,
all that shit in like cereals and shit, and that's what killed off the
Yeah,
mutant gene. Yeah, that's
yeah,
slick. They're slick. I didn't even think about
dude.
that for a while.
That
Yeah.
it's a tight little world he crafted in the background
yeah.
of
Logan
Logan.
is shockingly like well
God,
developed as a world of the
Well,
future.
and this
Fuck, I love.
this
You could watch that independent of everything else and be like, "Wow, this is really fucking good."
Yeah,
this is this feels like it would be better in that setting, that R-rated hey, let's have an adult time. This is Hong Kong. And not even saying that to get rid of Dakota Fanning either. Like I kind of like that there's a kid in the story to give us that point of innocence view. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that kind
A
of harder
creepy,
edge.
creepy kid to give us that point of innocence view.
She was very good at being the creepy kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's very good. I rewatching this, I was like, I really enjoy her in this role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a good actress.
Yeah.
She's in a little movie called was it Please Stand By? I was mentioning this to Seth off air. It's about her like uh traveling across the country to try to pitch a Star Trek fan script
I
to a
love it.
studio. It's cute. It's a cute little movie. It's not like great, but it's cute. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, so she's actually a genuinely
Yeah.
good actress. She gets some great scenes in this. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know if she's properly utilized in the tail end of her story arc.
Well, and it's like if you're this is PG-13, right? If your
Yeah.
goal is to get the teenagers in, make her more of the main character. Chris Evans is our main character, and as we've already discussed, he's kind of a side piece. This should be Kira's movie at the end of the day,
Oh,
but
I've got it. Big Trouble in Little China. Like where Wong is the main character and Jack Burton is the side character.
yeah,
The
exactly.
hunky dude is the side character.
Yeah.
But he's on the poster, so we're gonna
Right.
like get people
Yeah,
in with
'cause I
that.
would actually argue that Cassie's more of the main character than Kira. Like
Yeah.
Dakota Fanning, I would say, is more the main character, but she doesn't get. She's viewed as the side character because our focus is on Chris Evans.
Yeah, and so
So
I guess
we're all in agreement about it.
yeah,
But it's just
we need
Yeah, yeah.
resolution on that is my
Yeah.
point.
'Cause
Like
I think Kira
give
needs
us
to
one
have
or give us the
a
other.
position of
She's the mind, he's
ambiguity.
the muscle. Yeah.
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 I do like
Also,
their
no,
smarminess to each other. Like Dakota Fanning and Chris Evans have like good scene chemistry, and that's really and Dakota Fanning and
Yeah.
Jaimon Hansu, their scene together is also like wild.
Yeah. That one scene where she's like, "Please don't put anything in my head." He's like, but he's like, "There's no point. You are so beneath me. It's like there's nothing you can do."
That dude, wild. What a little scene additive to have there. Another mini positive for me. McPoyle shows up.
Yeah. I said the exact same thing.
Playing the fuck out of a McPoyle character. This guy, his screen confidence oozes stronger than Chris Evans sometimes. Like where he exits to let them hook up, and he's like, "You don't need to be a watcher to know what's going to happen next." Dog, he was reading each person in that room for filth, and I absolutely love his character. He's so. Ugh.
I will say that the sex scene feels unnecessary, but at the same time, I'm like, I like the lead up to it. So
It's they both use their powers, and it's clean PG-13. We're really not being
again, it's YA. They cut around the sex scene. It's YA.
Yeah.
They cut around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I do think the R-rated version of this is probably dope. It's probably really the powers are utilized so well in this. Like everything shows up as a plot point, not just as just passing scene imagery. Like memory wipes and the scene where she pushes one of the sniffers, one of the henchmen, into killing the other guy, like shoots him in the back of the head. That is a cold ass scene, like centered around her power, where it's not about like she gets out of the situation by beating the shit out of him because he's like totally frazzled after that.
Or when Kira makes the four guys that have become her little private squad. She just makes them jump into the hole and jump off the roof. Just like they just quietly jump into the hole. It's like, dude, that is so fucked.
This is rough material.
Which sucks why it's stuck in this YA mentality, this Harry Potter-ness. It really shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It's holding back a little bit, and that's unfortunate because it has such cool stuff. And like I think this would resonate regardless. Like there's this like very like scrappy kind of vibe to the like the protagonist versus the antagonist. Like
oh yeah,
all of the bad, because it's a 1-to-1 power situation. We've like Chris Evans versus Victor, and Kira versus Jamin Hansu. Like it's a 1-to-1. There's a good guy with the same power as the bad guy. And
everybody gets somebody to fight at the end of the movie.
Right. All of the good guys are raw, stronger, but not as skilled across the board. And like that's how Chris Evans is able to win the fight against Victor, who is shown to be so skilled with his telekinesis. And like Kira is able to control like a lot of people at once, which Jamin Hansu can't, but he can control one person and only get like fails because she is able to retaliate while his guard is down. We get that. Dakota Fanning is Cassie. Side note, Cassandra. But,
I get it.
And she's got like the lollipop girl, as her like opposed character, who they were like trying to see which one of them is the more powerful psychic between the two of them, and like like the I think all of us can like appreciate like, oh yeah, it is like kind of fun to like have natural like talent like rally against like the people who are like trained, and the trained it's a Rocky kind of vibe.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's also a Hunger Games, Divergent, whatever those other YA movies that came out at the same time vibe. It's
secretly
the kids know better.
You know what else I'm feeling a lot of in here? The Oceans movies, and I know it's because the three of us just covered them, but listen, like hear me out. It's a lot of like heist team 1, heist team 2. One person makes a move, so they make another move. They swap
They need they're all searching for the same thing. They need this briefcase. They need the thing that's in it.
That could have been stronger, and honestly could have been more of the center of the story. Like it's trying
like the whole sequence with them like wiping their memories and like doing the
the suitcase change out, and
and what the like the cards say and everything.
That all feels very Oceans inspired, and I think if it would have been Cassie putting the team together in that way and not this kind of like hodgepodge, like everything about the movie screaming, we put a team together to do this, but no one's actually putting a team together. It seems like fate is dropping them all together
that's
in
true.
line.
They all of a sudden are like a team, but before that I'm like, I thought you just like kind of knew this guy. Why is he all of a sudden like your ally in this like war?
Also, this is another thing I wanted to bring up. Thank you for bringing me the perfect segue. It's also very kind of weird and a little xenophobic that all of our main cast is white people in Hong Kong. It's a little weird. I get it. They're on the run, but it's like a 14-year-old girl and a 28-year-old guy and maybe like a 25-year-old woman are our main characters in Hong Kong. There's like, it's a little strange.
Cast is like fairly broad.
No, but I'm talking about like our team, our main team of like our lead characters. It's a little weird, and then the villains are like the whatever the mafia group is in Hong Kong. The triads are Japanese.
Sure.
Is it the triads? The Yakuza is Japan. Triads are Hong
right,
Kong.
But the ones who all of their powers are the most terrifying, bloody version of like a power.
Dude, the way they were wrecking those fish in the market, like
the fish market scene is fantastic. That scene is awesome. They get popping the fish. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, that shit was awesome. But no, I see what you're saying here. Even to the degree that like the shadow they bring in is McPoyle,
a white guy.
It's like another random white guy in Hong Kong that just happens to be the one with the right powers for this.
What a coincidence.
I also get it being like an expat thing. Like there's like kind of something like almost like kind of Hemingway-ish about all that, which
that's true.
Again goes back to being fan fiction for like white boys.
yeah, exactly. Like the better version of this movie is like he's an older brother and he's got a younger sister, and they're from there, and it's the American government trying to like grab people in the night to bring into their program.
That's what Kira should have been. They shouldn't have been a couple or ex-couple. It should have been his sister.
Are you saying her name should have been Akira? That's kind of what
I'm going for. You motherfucker.
Listen, why do you think her name is that in this movie about powers in an Asian country? Why?
China and Japan are two different countries. Damn it!
But like the filmmakers are leaning on a cinematic language for a reason. Her name
Oh,
is
okay.
Kira for
All
a
right.
reason.
Okay. All right. I'll
Yeah.
let you have that one. I'll let that one slide. Okay.
Listen,
Now
I
I'm trying to
didn't.
remember if there's like any Firestarter references in there.
I don't
It does
remember
have a
any.
very Stephen King feel
Yeah.
to it overall, where it's like this is not about the punch out fights. This is about using the power in the scene to make to solve the problem. Like it definitely feels very Stephen King across.
Yeah. I never
Yeah.
read the original story of Firestarter, but isn't it also like a government project? That's
Yep,
basically.
it's basically the exact same thing as this.
Yeah,
Is it literally the same thing?
Yeah.
Scanners is also a government project about the telepaths.
Scanners as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. This movie is just so tropey. It's like fine. Like it just isn't doing anything new beyond just like having good visuals, and like there isn't enough to carry it beyond that. Like
Yeah.
If
it
it
Well,
was
was
going to be
even
almost
a,
go
there.
back to like,
If it was
but
like the raid, like getting back to like if this was like an R-rated version of this,
yeah,
like
yes.
like I think audiences would be hungry for that if like it really pushed it. But no pun intended. But they didn't.
That's gonna
y'all need
happen a
to
lot
stop.
tonight.
Y'all need to
It's-
stop.
It's good. Like what they are giving us is good. Like I am not mad that I rewatched this movie, but I also completely forgot how the movie ended because I rewrote it with like a slightly better ending.
yeah, the
Sort of.
ending it just stops.
Yeah, it's
It-
like I swear to God, I thought the movie ended with him taking the drug, and that's how he was able to beat Victor.
yeah.
Um, and
Nope.
barely
Nope.
surviving. But no, and like I don't really hate that was a misdirect because like that is the most obvious one. I just don't understand why my brain rewrote the ending to the more
Other
obvious one.
other tropey movies have probably that ending, and you just sort of Mandela affected into your brain that
No,
was the ending.
Right.
It's the two movies that are at war with each other here. Because there's like an action movie in here that wants to do a Hong Kong movie finale, right? It's in a building that we can knock down and it's not gonna like kill any civilians because we know there's nobody in an abandoned construction site at night, and we get a big shootout amongst lots of different groups converging on each other. So there's the Hong Kong movie in here, and then there's the heist movie that needs to wrap up without violence, that needs to wrap up with outsmarting the villain and the villain walking away. And so they're totally at odds, and then they have to come together there and then end on the plane later because
Yeah.
it's a heist movie. It's always been a heist movie. The Hong Kong stuff was just like the set dressing edition. And so like I
Yeah.
want them to work in tandem. That's really what I'm asking for, because I think you can do that ending that you're thinking here, Case, where it's like take the serum could work on him, right? And then
Right.
that is like
And then
the
that justifies
heist was
a little bit
worthwhile. It
because
was,
like he's real bad at using his powers for a lot
he
of the movie.
truly
and, like, all of a
is.
sudden he beats a guy who is like truly a savant. Like
And that's like
Yeah.
so not true to a character, right? Like I just don't see a single young man not fucking around with his telekinesis all the time in his free time getting
Right.
really good at it. I just don't see it. The movie tries to convince me that he's just like too scared to do it, and I'm like, this guy that is not too scared to owe gangsters money is too scared to use what?
I understand wanting to be like good at being subtle. Like you could, but like sell it better that he's really strong, but it has a really hard time not being big and has to make sure that like people can't ever learn that he's a mover because then he would can't gamble the way he does.
Right,
Like
right.
I get the
Yeah.
grift part of that.
No, yeah,
But,
the
like,
grift
out-
is fine, but like it just
when
doesn't make sense to
not
his
around
character.
people. He should be fucking doing giant motions of like moving stuff, and maybe he tries to summon the milk and he overshoots because all he can do is like too much force.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
it's like that scene in the first Spider-Man movie where he's like trying to catch things with his webbing and he keeps fucking it
Yeah.
up over and over again.
Yeah,
Where he's
like
he can't get used to it.
set up that he is too strong for his own good with his telekinesis, as opposed to like not able to do fucking shit. Because then his fight with Victor would at least make sense.
Well, and the
What
payoff
if
to
he
that
acts-
too of
what-
like him figuring out, oh, I can punch with telekinesis. Now I don't need to meter myself. I'll just put all of it into the punch. That totally makes sense. Like I'm
Yeah.
tracking.
What if he doesn't just like kill somebody? What if he like punches somebody so hard with telekinesis they explode?
Dude, that's literally the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. So yeah, we could absolutely do that. Dude, Itadori uses telekinesis to punch through demons. That's all he does.
Well, I was thinking that moment in that story of Ricky where the guy, the prison guard, smashes a dude's head with his hands. I was thinking of that.
I love the
Oh,
story.
man.
Of
By
Ricky.
the way, when the Bloodshot movie was being in production, I actually pitched that to Dinesh, the producer, on that. I was like, dude, he needs to have a sequence where he like gets his arms like really buffed up because he can move his muscle mass throughout his body. I said, what if he like smashes a dude's head with his hands? And he was like, no, that's stupid. He's not going to do that. Fast forward to 2021, the Mortal Kombat movie comes out. What's the best moment in the movie?
Dude.
Jax fucking smashes Rinko's head with his hands. And it's the best moment in the movie.
They did it just for you, Jesse. Just for you.
I was right.
It's a great move.
It's a great move. It's a one-hit kill. It's great.
Yeah, and doing moves like that are why we're here for these like fight scenes that we're doing. Like, you know, I really would like. I would like it to either be better set up or to just go with the tropey excuse of like, yeah, he took the super soldier serum and now he's a super soldier with his telekinesis. Because at least they would explain how he could win against this guy.
Did he know he was going to get cast as Captain America by the time he was in production on this?
He might have. It's hard to say.
Maybe that's why they changed it, because they're like, yeah, Marvel's a little more important than our movie.
I don't know. I mean, like that would be assuming that they had this idea at all, and maybe they just never had this idea that to give him the serum. Like because they really set the serum up to be like extra deadly. Like it is kind of special that Kira has survived it.
Yeah, she's the only one that's ever taken it survived.
Yeah, so like
There's no production info at all on the wiki. There's nothing.
Yeah, I had to go diving for it. They did shoot a lot of this on location though.
Well, there's that, yeah.
Yeah,
dude, Hong Kong looks
again.
great
The visuals of this movie are really good. Like, it makes sense to be in this like weird expat community in Hong Kong, and like because it's so visually like alien to what we're used to, but in like a Blade Runner style like dystopian future kind of aspect.
Yeah,
like it. Really good. There's so many things that are so close to making this movie great,
dude.
And it's just not there, and so it's kind of just banal.
I honestly believe that this was probably pitched for adults and then pushed into the young adult. Oh, give them a couple years and then they'll come around and you'll have the adult audience that you want. And it's like,
once again, Iron Man. Maybe that's why the intro is there. Iron Man came out a year before this, man.
Yeah,
I don't hate the intro. I hate the narration in it.
Same summer with the Dark Knight. Like you have to think, and the Dark Knight is going with the hey, here's a realistic superhero world kind of thing.
Yeah,
like I think that makes it a stronger sell. That like you're saying like, yeah, we're going to make a movie. It's going to be just the same way all the X-Men movies, they're wearing leather. Like we're going to make this like feel like it, feel authentic and mature, but it's still going to have like the cool superpower stuff that we want to see. So it's going to be a guy in a suit, but he's going to be fucking able to like fling like sandbags all over and like deflect bullets and shit. And he's going to be so fucking scary. But he's in a suit because he's a fucking like absolute agent, like U.S. agent.
He's
a fucking unit, and you're gonna like it.
I don't hate Victor. I truly don't. I'm happy he's here. Makes for great scenes. Well, Case, what's your pitch to fix this up? What is the patch up here?
So, like I said, I think that like a little bit more mystery at the beginning would sort of allow for the potential twist to resonate better. So, like I said, don't have the opening monologue from Dakota Fanning. Don't have the prologue or like the background scene of like. Of Chris Evans like Nick character escaping while his father gets killed, like save that for a flashback later into the movie. And I like I said, I kind of I'm gonna go with just saying that like just lean into the serum thing as a reason. And hell, you could actually even like kill Chris Evans at the end of this all, like after he had like a surge of using his power. Or maybe you think you do, and then like the healer woman shows up again, and is like, no, I actually do owe you this one, and like something.
She just kind of vanishes by the end of the movie. They never really say what happened to her.
Well,
there's just people out there. There's these,
All right.
because this feels like a pilot of a TV show. Like, that's the thing about this
Well,
movie.
Well, because
and
it
this
was.
well, and
Right.
this director went on to direct a lot of superhero television as well. Like, this is his
Yeah.
wheelhouse, and so that
Right.
is definitely on display here.
I compared this with Heroes. I think that's a really apt comparison. Like, this
Yeah.
is like the YA, like slightly less camp version of that, like, of the Heroes, like, setup. And so if you're doing this as a movie, like, just you either like have the sad ending, or you have the fake out of the sad ending, and then like let him survive for some reason, but give a reason, because it's going to then feel like Underworld. And you know what, like, the first Underworld is not the worst movie in the world to be like it was a
Yeah.
successful movie for a reason.
It was fine. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. The
Um,
sequels I would never ever
right. Yeah, I'm not getting
recommend.
into the whole series, but like that's
Underworld
like,
wears its camp on its sleeve and went for that hard R too.
Yeah.
So like, I love that comparison. I think pushing this into that Underworld territory would absolutely work for it.
Forgive the
Yeah.
pun.
Yeah.
See? Did it again.
Oh,
Yeah, so
moving
like,
it there.
I don't think it requires a lot, because the actual scenes that we get are really cool. We keep talking about all the different sequences with powers and how like those are pretty dope. The
Something I've
world is
been
thought
doing
out. Sorry,
with
go on.
something I've been doing with these is the but therefore storytelling, running through a movie's plot points and making sure that it's not and then, but it's
Yeah.
got but and therefore. This movie adheres to its logic. Like, you are following a domino chain from beginning to end that does make logical sense. They explain where the pieces happen. The but therefore storytelling is all here. The plot
Yeah.
itself, I have almost no, like, there's some things that could have been executed better. Like, when he first sees Kira again, he could have explained that he couldn't save her. That makes that scene, I think, even more impactful. I don't know why that's not there, but yeah,
Yeah, a
like,
little too many contrivances, a little too many conveniences, but overall it's like the structure's like fine.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the fact that having all these people in the same place at the same time,
I'll
weird.
I'll point out the one that impressed me the most. So Chris Evans, before the finale, is locked in the trunk of a car.
Oh yeah, and some guy falls
Oh.
on it to get him out. What was the plan if he was still in the trunk of the car? If that guy
No.
hadn't fallen?
Because the guy only fell because of the shootout that started, and the shootout only started because Jaimon Hansu wouldn't give up the case to the triads. So if he had gone peacefully, our main character would have stayed in the trunk the whole time, cutting himself out of his own plant. But because they had a clairvoyant, they knew that he was going to push into, sorry to use it again, push into violence and start the violence out that then releases him out of the trunk of the car. Every plot point pushes the next one forward. I do see it. It's the dialogue. It is the PG-13 rating. Like, those are the thing. The plotting
Yeah.
is not the issue.
Yeah.
I rewound. I was like, let me make sure I can follow all the logics of what happened here. You can even see when Kira gets her mind wiped. That, like, they include that in that whole, because you never know when they're speaking.
Oh
to
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So like, it does push itself through. The logic is all
So
here.
that's how he knew to give her the photograph that she opens on the plane.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they
That's
knew
yeah.
they
Yeah,
knew
okay.
that he was going to use his powers within the plan, and so to make the plan that they could then forget, they had to just assume he was going to use his powers in that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another negative I would give the movie, and this is something that we definitely should shift here, is Cassie's mother, which is hinted at in the opening of the movie and is constantly referenced throughout the whole film. They're like, well, we have the serum now. We can go save my mom. It's like, well, are we going to do that in this movie?
Not
We're
for the
not.
sequel.
Right.
For the sequel, that never happened. And
Yeah.
like, even though the marble sequence in the opening of the movie is awesome, that is the best sequence in the movie. The intro of this movie, where Kira escapes and the mother drops the marble and allows her to escape.
Yeah.
Holy shit, it's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Seeing that far into the future just to get that one thing to get the door open.
Yeah.
Great. I wish that they would actually pay it off in some way. We could actually get to the what? Remember in Captain America: Civil War where they get to the end, coincidentally with Chris Evans, and it's like, oh, we're all locked on the raft, we can't get out, and then who shows up? Captain America shows up, and the last shot is his close up of his face to break them out. Why couldn't that be the end of this movie too?
Oh yeah, just a couple more seconds.
Just a couple. Just give me 30 seconds of them just busting into the hospital or wherever it was and break them out.
One more
Done.
marble sequence at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one more to wrap it up. Circuitous narrative. Where you end
that.
should be where you began.
I dig that. Marbles are round. It implies a circular narrative. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Does that work in your pitch here, Case? I know we kind of jumped
I
in
think
the
so,
middle
especially
of it.
with him getting like if he actually takes the serum and he gets the powers, like him showing up at the end to like free that like base or whatever.
Yeah.
Works really well because then all of a sudden he's really fucking powerful.
So we should establish then in our version that the version of the serum that Kira got was the first stable version. And
Yeah.
so that is the assumption of what he would be injecting himself with at the end. Not that there's any chance that he would die at all, because this is verifiably the first like stable version of the serum.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's why they want the drugs so bad. Like
Yeah.
they're really into it for the drugs, and in theory they have the drugs already. Like they are able to make these, and they've tested them on lots of people. So yeah, I would say it would make sense that this is the first version that seems to work. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's still always the risk because it's only worked once. But
Sure.
But
Yeah,
But if that's the stable version, then that's the one they would
right,
want to
and that's
try
what
again.
that way Chris Evans can actually take it, and thus he can have the fight with Victor, but it actually makes sense why he wins because he is also amplified in the same way that Kira is amplified, and thus the power scaling kind of works as well because like she's clearly more powerful generally than Jamin Hansu, but he's better in one-on-one, so that could be the situation here, kind of thing. So like
I like that. Yeah, like they planned against that for him.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that actually makes it a more satisfying end. The way it ends right now, like I said, feels just like the pilot of a TV show. Not a lot of
Going to go off new adventures.
Yeah, it's just like there's more for us to go do, and like it's fine, but it just isn't as satisfying as a movie should be.
Yeah. Have you guys both read Saves the Cat?
Yep.
I think that there's like a deeper philosophy that we're seeing at work here, where this is a combination of Saves the Cat and Kurochov's Gun, where they keep saying they're going to save the mom and then never do. And you can't not save the thing that you're telling us to invest in wanting to be saved across your movie. We need to see that gun go off. We need to see her get like rescued at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you are going to do a trilogy, I like the idea that he's now got the only, like, he and Kira now have like within their bodies, I guess, the ability to reverse engineer this serum, and so potentially like they could be hiding that or trying to keep the government from knowing.
Right, or just they could be freeing everyone because it's not the serum itself is not the thing that they care about. They care about the government just not coming after people with powers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
so they start like a Task Force X.
Yeah.
No,
well,
they
not really
started. They started a Suicide Squad.
But yeah, like it would make sense that then they really become more of like a freedom fighter kind of movement.
It's the A team for the X-Men, the X team.
Yeah, what was that off-brand, like, crappy version of the X-Men? Was it X Factor? The characters nobody gave a shit about? Was it like Flashback and Strong Guy? Characters no one gave a shit about. Nobody fucking cared. It wasn't Forge on that team as well. It's like because nobody likes Forge.
Here's the real question: like, it's risky to ask me this kind of a question because I could go off. Do we have 45 minutes?
Wait, okay, so the original X Factor team was Angel, Beast, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, and Iceman.
So
what?
Oh, no shit.
The
Those are
original
just
concept for
X-Men.
X Factor was
That's just X-Men.
founding X-Men. At this point, all of them had not been members of the original X-Men or of the X-Men team for a while at that point. Even Cyclops had retired.
Oh, I'm thinking of the 91 to 98 version where it's Valerie Cooper. It was
right,
basically
exactly. So
Havoc, Multiple Man, Polaris, Quicksilver, Strong Guy, and Wolfsbane. Yeah, nobody likes Wolfsbane. Everybody hates Wolfsbane. Forge was in there as well. That's right.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that name was then later ported over to a government sanctioned team So this was more akin to the Avengers. Like they actually, they were directly working for the government, so they had to actually like play by the rules. That's why they had like a uniform that was like a little bit more uniform esque
Mhm.
to their design. Um, and so that was sort of like, all right, this is the dealing with like sort of a right wing kind of world. Um, and having to play nice with the government version of the X-Men.
Uh-huh.
And that's the one that a lot of people knew for a while. And then it was revamped in the 2000s into being a detective agency. Um, that would operate as that was like with multiple men as the leader with Strong Guy and Im, Wolfsbane, like Richter, like relatively speaking similar cast, but they were operating on this much smaller scale, like investigating crimes and stuff. And
Mm.
it was actually really like a fun noir series that a lot of people really love. And then
Huh.
that's the concept that it was revived under in the more recent like Krakoa era, where it was the
Oh
actual
yeah.
detectives on the island of Krakoa like researching, like even though a mutant can die and come back, like sometimes you want to know, like, was that person murdered? Like,
Yeah. Well, they're bringing that storyline to an end now.
well,
They're
yes,
bringing.
but
They're
that was
like,
the
yeah,
idea
we
for
can't
X
keep
Factor.
doing this. We're kind of done.
So I think X Factor, generally speaking, now has the detective vibe, and I think that's going to stick around if it
There you
ever
go.
is like revived at this point.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, let's sum up our pitch here real quick in 3 points. We're aiming to add a little mystery to the beginning by maybe excising some of our narration and meeting Nick a little later on in the story and finding out about his connection. We're
Making Cassie the main character instead.
make, making Cassie the main character, giving this a shift over into the R rating.
Aha!
Yeah.
Slick, you asshole.
Thank you. I had to torque my way into that one.
Oh, damn it!
um, and then what's our third one?
And
Uh,
then have a
and
more traditional ending
yeah,
with the serum situation, allowing for them to sort of at least wrap up and sort of give the vibe that they are directly addressing the larger issues of the world
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have been set up through this whole thing.
Rescue the mother as well.
Yeah,
rescue the
like
mom. So
setting that up,
a
that
little more
they're
at the
going
end.
off to go do that. Like you don't even need to see them successfully do it, but like they're gonna go do it. And now they have the secret weapon, which is Nick being super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to add a new little section to Film Rescue. This is called Producer's Notes.
Oh no.
We've successfully rescued this movie from what could potentially happen in 2009, and we're gonna send this movie back with our producer's notes on it. So for producer's notes, you have to tell us which actor must stay for our new version that's going to go into production. So we're gonna keep an actor. They might get recast, we don't know, but one of them we get to keep, and a scene that must stay. So, what are your actor that must stay and a scene that must stay as we send this back into production with our rewrite?
Dakota Fanning gets to stay, and it's a scene where she bumps into Jaimin Hansu outside of the restaurant.
Strong producer notes from Jesse there. Okay, I like
That
that.
stays.
That's
Um,
that scene reminds me of a little bit of the Coens, that the scene in No Country for Old Men where you get like your villain
Oh,
and your and with
the
a
gas
very
station scene.
underpowered person. Yeah, the gas station scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
that good notes. I like that. How about you, Case? What are your producer notes?
complete agreement about Dakota Fanning. Like 100% the one person in this whole cast that I think this movie couldn't function without.
Mm.
Or at least as long as that role is in this movie. Like I can't imagine a different person playing that part.
Yeah.
I
Chris
would
Evans,
say,
while I like him, he's just kind of like a hot American guy. It's kind of
yeah,
like you can find 1,000 of those. It's not that important, really. It's
His
and plus,
career's
if
gonna
now
be
he's
okay, guys. I
yeah.
promise.
Imagine
yeah,
Chris
give it a
Hemsworth
year,
in this
he'll be
part.
fine, guys.
Yeah, imagine any other Chris in this part at this time, and it
Chris
would work
Pine
just fine.
crushes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so anyway, yeah, so yeah, Dakota Fanning must be the actor that I think has to stay. However, that said, I think that we do strongly need a real trailer moment, and I think we need the Victor Nick fight, or at least the Victor the earlier Victor Nick fight when we have the gunplay going on, and then
Oh, in the restaurant. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and Victor being able to use the psychic powers to deflect bullets and things like that. I think that those scenes are so necessary for the trailer that like we must get that, because I think the promise of the notes that we have given about this movie requires that kind of like big bombastic like action sequences for the movie that we want to sell.
Yeah. No, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Also,
Good call.
that scene sets up what happens later in the movie. It is the first time that Chris Evans makes a decision out of the blue to go see him at the restaurant, and they can't guess what's going to happen next, and that's why he's kind of pinned up into the wall in a corner and has to make his way out and escape through past Chris Evans, is because they couldn't anticipate that move. They use that against him later on in the movie. I love. There's so much happening in that scene. I fucking love it.
Foreshadowing.
Right, it's good stuff. Yeah, no, I totally agree with our casting choices. I think Jaimon Hansu must stay as well. I think if you swap him out with somebody else, we're going to get a much more boring version of what
Yeah.
is a boring character being brought to life here. Like, this is thankless work, and he's actually doing something interesting with it. He's got to stay for me. The
Yeah.
scene that needs to stay, that must stay, I'm going to say the sniffer scene from the beginning. We need to set up how off this world is. We need to show our editing style with these like flashbacks. I love the little DJ move on the cup. I think that scene really sells us that these henchmen are kind of awful, and so we don't feel too bad about them when they both get killed within 10 minutes of each other later on in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my scene that's got to stay. Regardless of if Chris Evans gets lost, yeah, I agree. Chris Pine could probably do great in that scene as well, but I think that scene itself needs to stay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I think these are good notes. If those are the two actors that we keep and 3 scenes that we all agree should be in this movie, I think that's a solid foundation right there.
Dude, Jaimon Hansu could have been Nick. Honestly, he could have been an expat with telekinesis. I think the Nick character.
The age of the character doesn't really matter, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a Logan setup. It's a older guy and a younger girl, Kemosabe.
Fuck it, Pedro Pascal. Fuck it.
Shut the. He's not active in 2009 yet. Like this.
Shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter.
You would look too prescient in your casting, Jesse. You're gonna give away the time travel.
He was on NYPD Blue at this time. It's fine.
He wasn't leading movies as a villain.
Who the fuck gives a shit?
Yeah, he's not daddy yet. You got to wait until he develops into daddy to start that.
God damn it, that bullshit.
Hell yeah. Well, that was Push. This is almost a fantastic movie. Lots of functional stuff in here, but goddamn, sometimes producers' notes to make it more like the Hunger Games, they might just ruin you, man. They might just ruin you.
Well, I think we're finally out of that phase. I think a young adult has finally died.
Gen Z doesn't give a shit about that stuff. Oh my god.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, nobody cares. The closest we'll get to that is like Harry Potter shit at this point, where that's why they're trying to revive the Harry Potter show for HBO Max.
They're revive that
cares?
for millennials, my guy. They're not reviving that for the kids. That is for millennials. That's who's spending the money.
God. It's like that, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, like that TV show that just debuted on Netflix. Like, who was clamoring for this? Like, who cares?
Not the kids.
And your big ass TV show debuts with a 60% of Rotten Tomatoes. Wow, good job, guys.
Do you know what I think it was? I think our generation was really searching for identity and things like being a runner or being a Harry Potter fan, or like just so many identity factors were being kind of thrown at us in that young adult stuff. Gen Z, they get identity. They were born into a world where people are making it all about identity, and so they don't need to be like told what they are, and so they don't vibe with the stuff that's like you're either a jock or a nerd.
Right. We got the corporate version. They're now the independent version.
Yeah. Exactly.
We were corporatized, and we're trying to phase our way out of that now.
Listen, the yuppies
they are
us.
reaping the rewards of their parents going to therapy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's
hopefully
a fair point.
Hopefully they run with it too. Well, I think that's going to do it for this one. Case, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on. I'm glad that this was a fun one. I was a little worried because like again like it's almost good, and as a result like it's it's very subtle things that I think like this movie needed to like really push it over.
There's nothing to hate here. Ah, he
Yeah.
said push. Oh my god, we need a counter on this video.
But yeah, that's why I put this on the list for the season. It's like, first off, we referenced doing this movie in like season 3, 4,
Think
something
so.
like this.
Probably.
Yeah, it was like long in gestation, and I put together the list this season because I didn't want to watch tons of crap. So I said I'm gonna pick like just almost good enough movies, almost there. It's like, so most of the movies, I think we have like 2 stinkers this season that we're just like.
Sometimes you
most
have
of them,
to. They're worth.
you just have to. Like,
If Criterion can incept a bunch of the Razzie winners into their collection now,
Congrats to Freddy Got Fingered for ending up on Criterion's channel.
this nothing but W's in that. Nothing but W's. I love it. I love. Did you hear the way they put it?
I can't wait to watch a double feature of Freddy Got Fingered and The Seventh Seal. I can't wait.
Listen, that is cinema. That is cinema.
And voila, cinema.
Werner Herzog watches Real Housewives because he loves the way it's edited.
Oh, god damn it. And he's never watched a single Star Wars movie. Okay.
Thank you both again for being here. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Film Rescue Show. That was Push, our producer's notes, and our changes that we would have made. You can check out our Patreon or our merch store if you'd like to help support us. You can check out the podcast that the podcasts that Case is on. There are plural podcasts, and he is on all of them. Is what I'm trying to say.
I was just on one. I was just on one. We covered Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. It was a fun episode. Yeah, it was fun.
Ooh, should I watch that?
Sure.
It's worth having seen.
It's cute.
It's cute. I saw it when it came out, and I can't remember anything about it at all.
That's not surprising. None of us could.
Most of us were like rewatching. We're like, did that happen? Yeah, it did. Okay.
See, I don't give a fuck about Mandela effects. I give a fuck about stuff like this where everybody goes, "Yeah, I saw that. I don't remember it though."
I can say that about every Transformers movie, though.
True.
It's fascinating as like here's a moment of promise of the hellscape that we're in now, but at the time like here's this bright future ahead of us. So yeah, you were just on for that, and actually your episode of Men of Steel will be dropping very soon as well.
Oh man, where I got way too drunk for my own good and I got very pissed off.
Yes, where we finally actually talked about Man of Steel.
Oh god, for anybody that's going to listen to that one, I swear to God, I have a very bad hatred towards Zack Snyder movies, but it's just like at this point with Rebel Moon having come out and everyone being just dunking on it, it's like the hate is deserved at this point, guys. It's like it's okay. Also, he thanked Ethan Van Sciver in the Snyder Cut. Fuck him. Okay?
Yeah, that was...
you knew better, dude. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
Big yikes. Big yikes.
Anyway, so those are the two shows, Another Pass and Men of Steel. You can find both of them at certainpov.com, or you can check out our YouTube channel, Certain POV Media. I've started posting all of the podcasts with visualizer effects to make it somewhat appealing as full episodes on there, so you can actually check out the podcast there. We also
I wish there was an AI app where you could put like the Terrence and Phillip characters where like the heads bounce and bounce up and down as you're talking.
That wouldn't be that hard to find necessarily. Like I'm sure it exists. We do stuff like that for the clips that we post, and also for the Superman analog videos that I put up there. So if you're curious about various characters who are reminiscent of Superman in some way, which actually includes Captain America, check those out. I do like 5-ish minute sort of spiels about what I think is important about any given character, and that is by far the most successful series I have done.
Nice.
So it's worth checking out. I've got some episodes with like several thousand views, and I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. Versus like any of my podcast stuff, which is like smaller numbers.
Listen, the short form content's easy to digest. It's like French fries, you know.
Why do you think
Uh,
TikTok is so popular?
so those are all worth checking out. And on app-based platforms, I'm at Case Aiken, except for Instagram, where I'm at Quetzalcoatl5 because I'm holding on to my AIM screen name from high school for dear life. So yeah, check me out on all that, or check out the Discord server for Certain POV. If you go to certainpov.com, uh, there will be a link there, and you can come and chat, and it's a good old time.
Excellent. Well, that's
Nice.
going to do it for this episode. Good night.
Good night.